Perfect. So we'll start over again. We want to welcome everyone. Today is the 777. This is the seventh month. The 16th with a 1 and a 6 is a 7, and 25, which is another 7. 777 today. We're happy to have Ana Marins with us from Brazil, and we're waiting for Rob Cunningham to join us. He had another podcast before this one, and he will join us as soon as he's done with that. And we're excited about talking about the financial system. Ana, why don't I ask you, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in Brazil? Will you do that for us, please?
Oh, sure, gladly. Thank you, Qranker, for having me here. And thank you all for sharing the screen with us, and especially 𝕯𝖊𝖚𝖘, which is a rock star, and Dylan, which is my goal to be so collected, so well versed. Thank you. And of course, my dear friend Chile and Andy. Well, in Brazil, we have been chatting about everything that is going on since 2020, when we were all faced with a big challenge of a change and a big change of life called the COVID. And I had the urge to have my own voice out loud, and I created my YouTube channel. I started doing videos, bringing people to their senses as I was trying. I was doing the same myself. And since then, we evolved through the platforms, got a lot of censorship towards us, but always working steady fast until the goal, which is freedom, sovereignty, and unity. That's my main goal: unity, to keep the calm during the storm, keep the calm during any situation that seems challenge, because everyone is facing their own personal challenges, and at least we need to talk, as you always told me, Qranker, in our long time friendship. We need each other. We need each other to calm down and to clear our minds. And that's what we have been doing through the Telegram channel. We started an insiders club. I call it insiders club, but it's a group of people that it's like-minded, like-hearted, and are looking not for here, but towards the future, what we can do together to make Brazil great again. Yeah, that's what we have been doing here.
Thank you, Ana. And I see Rob just joined us. Rob, welcome to the panel. I just was introducing Ana, and we're so honored to have you. You've been a great voice. I've been following you. You and I hooked up on X, and you resonate so much with all of us here on this panel. And we're so honored to have you on. And I know you're a busy man, and you're a wanted man by many other patriots. So we thank you for coming on. Can you give everyone a little brief background of where you came from and your history, so everyone knows who Rob Cunningham is?
Well, sure. I'm happy to. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the invite. It's what a time to be alive. Jason, it's great to see you, brother. I've followed you off and on for 4 years, and you're an encyclopedia. You're AI before we knew about AI, man. You're amazing. So thank you for all that you do, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, just a very brief background on me. I live in Georgia, just north of Atlanta. After college, I studied computer science. After college, I went in the Air Force and flew jets. I was an instructor pilot. I got out of the Air Force and went to the airlines and flew for 2 years and found myself unemployed. I got, 500 of us got laid off because of a slowing economy. So Delta Airlines decided to lay us off, and I changed careers and went into mortgage banking. So I worked on, with Wall Street at Merrill Lynch and at Citibank, Citigroup, and kind of had a fascination with the credit markets and mortgage and debt. So I helped run a small division of a mortgage company where I met my wife. And for 25 years after that, we ran a company, a sales and leadership and business development company across the United States. So I thank God all the time that, you know, we're trying to process and put together what's happening in our world in this, 3D bubble. And for whatever reason, I've got a military background. I got a top secret security clearance. I have a management information systems background. I have a Wall Street background. I have a business development background. I've met with President Trump twice. I've studied history. I love politics. And when you start thinking of databases and relational databases and how does everything fit together and what are the spiritual laws versus man-made laws and which set of laws are we following? And, if you have the eyes to see what's really going on and we're fighting an enemy that's not flesh and blood, then you have to understand what kind of laws are operating on that realm versus on the physical realm. And so, how are we fighting this war? How is President Trump, how are all the nation's leaders fighting this war if the war is of a spiritual nature and not bombs and insults and racism and vaccines? What if it's at a whole coming from a whole different level? It then becomes incumbent on us to become law students. We have to know the law, the spiritual laws that operate, or my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. That's the knowledge that Jesus was talking about. We have to know whose we are, and what are those timeless, immutable, and indestructible laws that were the same 2,000 years ago, today, and forevermore. If we don't know those laws, they're going to kick our ass every day. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Rob. And I'm just going to tell you that I appreciate you so much. You have a way of articulating all this information and putting it in a very smooth way where guys like me, sometimes my emotions get involved because it is very emotional. I mean, we're living in a time and a lot of people don't understand the time that we're living in. And like you mentioned, the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Everyone on this panel, we've all been together for God since 2020, and we started off in Telegram, and we've been through different Patriot channels and what have you. And this core here is always stuck together because we all believe in the Spirit, what you're talking about, and the Spirit of Christ and the Christ within us. And we've done the work, we've done the homework. But when you come to the table, when you started doing your podcasts and I started listening to you and then I followed you on X, you have a great way of articulating the facts and laying them out. And that is why I really wanted to reach out to you. And I know you mentioned about Jason and Chili and then Andy's up. Andy is called the Kid. Andy got me into crypto a long time ago, and his last name's Kidorowski. That's why we call him the Kid. And Andy knew so much about, and he says, Qranker, you know so much about the history of what they've done to us. He goes, you got to get into the crypto because this is where Trump's executive orders come in. You keep talking about, and a lot of people don't correlate like XRP, XLM, and all these cryptos that they do correlate with the executive orders that are coming about. Can you touch base on that, on how Trump has put these executive orders in place and how this is all coming into crypto, please?
Sure. Let me start with the last chapter and the ending of the movie, and then we can back up into it. We're experiencing a modern day money flipping table operation where Jesus went in the temple and turned the tables over. Why did he do it? He rode into the Holy Week, into the holy city on the back of a donkey, and he stood on the side. The first thing he did was sat on the side of the hill and he watched the money changers who were converting the shekel to every kind of value that people from 30 countries had brought with them. Because the only thing you could do during Holy Week, the only method of exchange, the medium of exchange, was the shekel. So you had to bring your perfume and your oil and your perfect spotted goats or whatever that you brought. And of course, if you traveled 4 weeks to get there and they want to give you 5 cents on the dollar, where are you going to go? You're going to take the raw deal. Okay. And knowing how the money system was set up, how corrupt it was, and how people were being taken advantage of in this centralized location, he sat there, and I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons, but he just couldn't take his people being victimized and raped and stolen and taken advantage of. And he went in, he flipped over the money tables, and he beat everybody with a whip. And 5 days later, they hung him from a tree. So the proverbial central banking of the day was being hosted in the temple by the church, and the bankers and the church people went to the politicians, and 5 days later, they killed the Christ. So what do we have today? We got crooked court systems. We have failed religious systems, and we have central bankers who would rather open up our borders and stick poisons in our body and kill 4 billion of us than to let us free, because they have a love and a worship of money. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, because from the money becomes the power and the control, and they get to control us. And so anyone that might come down an escalator in 2015 seeking to free his people is going to be deemed a threat. And they're going to throw everything that they have at him for 10 years to kill him, to impeach him, to investigate him, to bankrupt him, to put him in prison, to steal his hotel, to steal his Mar-a-Lago, to do whatever they possibly can to get rid of this man who's going to disrupt their monopoly. Period. I like to call XRP, the initials to me stand for Christ Released Prosperity. Because what it is, if you will, is it's a utility token. It's a technology that allows money to transfer point to point, person to person, entity to entity with mathematical certainty, absolute accountability, and total transparency. Okay? You can't cheat it. You can't put your fat fingers in there. You can't leverage it. You can't do interest, or you can't lose it. You can't pervert the process. You can't create these things out of thin air, cook the books, or have your sets of books and my sets of books and the State Department sets of books and the CIA sets of books. You have one set of books. So if you have immutable law, math is a law, just like gravity is a law, just like quantum physics is a law. Just like, heat's a law, I mean, there are certain laws. Who made laws? The Creator made laws. So, if there's a lawmaker, a lawgiver, and a law teacher, and let's call the Holy Spirit the law administrator, that essence, that spiritual connected force between us and the Creator and the teacher that Jesus talked about, right? And then we have a law book. Well, we have a lawgiver, a law teacher, a law administrator, and a law book. I guess that makes us law students. And if we don't know the laws, we get our butts kicked. And if we go to the religious institute to get faith and lawfulness the way that Jesus taught it to us, we lose. Because they start with sin consciousness, they start with separation, they start with over there on another, when you leave here and go there, then things will be, if you do all the things right, then you'll get a 40-yard line seat in Heaven's Stadium. But it's not about now. It's not about what Jesus talked about, the here and the now and the oneness with the Christed Spirit, that a faith of a mustard seed lets us move mountains. He wasn't talking about after you die. He was talking about now. And he didn't say to Peter, hey, dude, on this rock, on these rock solid principles that I've taught you, I want you to go forth and set up 47,000 501c3s with, tax benefits and speech codes. That's not the kind of church that Jesus asked Peter to go and set up. The church is the body. It's us. The church is it's a verb. It's not a noun. It's not a 501c with a parking lot and a bunch of elders and daycare and mission trips and pastors that publish books and, it's not about butts in the seats and revenue and running a business. It's a way of life. And if Christ is the head of the body, then, the church is really, it's a verb, and it's how we live our lives. It's our love walk 24/7. It's not our 1 hour duty, in the institution on Sundays and Wednesday nights. And this whole caricature of what faith is all about has been converted into this thing called religion. And that is probably the single greatest thing that we have to overcome, is to forget all that we've been taught to learn all that we should know.
Yeah,
So I think, you know, on my timeline on X yesterday, I did an analogy of this kind of abundance principle, this infinite abundance principle that Jesus talked about and that's in the law book. If you remember when we had cell phones with bags and antennas on the back of our car, and it was $1.35 a minute for prime and 95 cents for non, right? And then, so people used it sparingly and not very many people had it. And it was a status symbol. You had a little antenna on the back of your car and a bag. You were cool. You know, I can say that because I'm an old guy. I remember those days. But what happens when they drop the plans to $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data? Well, three things happen. People started talking like it was free. The cost went down. The revenue to the cell phone companies exploded. And the economy grew like crazy because people communicated and collaborated, and they acted like the resource was free. And so all of a sudden, people started using more. And by cutting the cost from this high number to this low number, everything exploded and blew up and grew. Let's apply that model to money. What happens if money is $10 instead of 10 cents? What happens if it's a 6 or 7% transfer rate across borders? What happens if there's a lot of friction? What happens if it's 1 day to 7 days to get your money across the seas? What happens if there's a 6% loss rate? And then what happens if money becomes less than a penny to move? And you could have an audience here, Anna, and people could be streaming out of their crypto wallets a penny a minute to listen to you. When they click and they stop listening, it doesn't go to you anymore, because it's not so expensive that couldn't happen. We could tip somebody 2 pennies every time we read one of their articles. And if 1 million people read an article, then all of a sudden money can move as fast and almost in an infinite basis like cell phone minutes did. What would happen? The financial institutions would explode in revenue. Abundance would grow. The economy would grow. We would collaborate, be able to trade across borders with no concept of a border. Everybody would have abundance and wealth could spread all over the world. There's only one problem. The central banking controllers don't want that to happen, because they don't get to have all the power and the control. But if we can break these prison walls down and we can take that model where we have abundance of resources and quantum technology and cryptography and perfect ledgering and atomic settlement, and next to less than a penny to move value all over the world, then we can interoperate with a mentality of abundance. We can communicate and collaborate on a level playing field, and all of this centralized wealth and power and control doesn't end up in the hands of Jamie Dimon and BlackRock. It stays with us. So that's
Rob,
where I think we're having a spiritual turning of the money changer tables on a metaphorical kind of basis. And that is going to open up wealth and abundance and resources the way our infinite creator intended it to exist.
I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And it's amazing how you can articulate and put it all in that download. And I know it's a download. But
It is.
the other thing is that we've talked about this in our last podcast, and Anna and I talk about this, the responsibility that goes with this, to be self-governing, and also the abundance. We're not going to rely on government anymore to take care of us. It's going to be us serving the people, being of service to one another.
Yes.
And this abundant, and one of the issues I have in this whole movement about the RV and the XRP and all this abundance that's coming to us, no one's talking about the responsibility that comes with that.
Amen.
Can you touch on that a little bit, please?
Well, sure. I think you've hit the nail on the head, brother, because again, if we attach our identity or our purpose with some kind of status symbol or bank account or title or following, and we we have one ultimate option in the law book, right? We get to choose to worship God or worship the things of this world. And if you get caught up in the entanglement of pride and ego and status and the guys, we go chase the gold and the girls and the glory. And, next thing you know, you're on the treadmill and you're running as fast as you can to keep up with the Joneses. And you get caught in the comparison trap and whose house is bigger and whose wife is prettier. And, how many vacations have you been on this? All of this, the junk. If we attach our identity or our sense of who we are to material things, we've failed. If we find our purpose and we know that we need to rebuild things, whether they be schools or the medical system or the food supply system or the education system, whatever it may be, it's incumbent, it's our responsibility to find our purpose. And you're not going to find it in a book, and the school system's not going to tell you what it is. You have to find it from your Father, your Creator. We have to be led in the right direction to know how to ask the right questions, to understand the laws and the principalities that are in play. But if we as a community and as a family and as nations would begin to feel, look, in God we trust, or we don't. We place our trust in our net worth, our status, our title, our fame, what people say about us, our relationship, whatever. That's we're wasting our time. I mean, literally, we're a grain of sand on the beach, and for us to try to compare ourselves to one another, it's like going and picking up two different grains of sand and going, yeah, well, I'm better than you because look at the, I mean, it's like we're comparing grains of sand to each other, and then our ego gets inflated because we think our grain is better than your grain, and it's idiotic on its face when you think about, how pride goeth before the fall and how ego causes us to stumble and fall and have broken societies and broken families and broken marriages and all the addictions and all the crap that we have. It's because we're looking for sense of love and joy, purpose, meaning in things external to ourselves instead of in the oneness of the spirit of the Christed spirit of Jesus that's in us that he talked about. And our society has forced us to look out, or programmed us to look out and know a bunch of stuff and follow the rules and groupthink. We're born into systems of trust and tradition. And very few people, if you're the curious one and you want to ask a lot of questions, well, we got to put you on some ADHD medicine. We gotta put you in the special class. You're the gifted class or the slow class. But look, you're asking too many damn questions. I need you to shut up and just follow the rules. Okay? We ought to reverse all of that and get people to constantly ask the right questions so that they can get the right set of laws going on up here and not the matrix laws that they want us to follow. So hey, and I see your hand. I'm not the host, but if you got a question, I'd love to.
You took the words out of my mouth. Anna, why don't you ask Rob some of the questions that the people in Brazil were asking on your chat on Sunday? Will you please?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Qranker. Hello, Rob. I'm
Hi.
Anna. I'm from Brazil. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. On responsibility and exactly what you have been saying, for the last 10 days, we here in Brazil, everyone seems to be living in a how can I say, in a battle, in a tariff battle caused by President Trump tariffs on Brazil, the 50% that now President Lula overturned to United States as well. So it's a big fight among both countries. We understand from a different perspective through the channels on Telegram, through Jason, through Qranker, through Dylan, and many others in the world. We understand what's going on. But some business owners are having their moment, you know, of oh my God, this is what is going on again after COVID. So we have been receiving questions about how long it will be taken, how it is going to be solved. And we always bring exactly what you have been saying. We have to see from inside of us, from inside of our house, what is the core of our business. And but we cannot how can I say, we cannot just not listen to their worries, because they provide work, they provide business, they provide they have employees, so it's life, right? So what is on Brazil? Would you bring something for us on how we should be, I don't know, managing or giving a word specifically on tariffs for Brazil? I'm sorry, my English
No,
at
it's
this
very
time of the
good.
day.
Yeah, it's very good. You know, at the philosophical level, I don't know that this will be, you know, healing to the soul, but you know, President Trump, from my understanding, we've gone through a three-phase process. Number one is exposure. Show them all the criminality. They're wiretapping Trump Tower. They're setting me up with Russia. They're doing all of the. So it's a level of exposure where he had to show the world how bad it was for quite a long time. He got laughed at and mocked and ridiculed and who fought, and what, 5% of the people believed him? So there's an exposure which led to, damn, he was telling the truth the whole time, to an awakening. Okay. And then after the next 4 years, the awakening was, look what Biden's doing. He's trying to kill us and shoot us and poison us and let border invasions happen and start wars and send money and print money and just absolutely bankrupt us and kill us and divide us and introduce every absurd thing in the world. So you had the exposure, the awakening, and now we have the storm. What storm, Mr. President? You'll see. Okay. But there's a capacity. Only a certain percentage of people are going to get the awakening part, and a certain amount of people are going to get the exposure part, and a certain amount of people. And I'm thinking it's growing at a very rapid pace where people are starting to say, "Oh my God, I get it." But there's a capacity issue here. How these crooks have had 112 years since the central bank was put in place, or 80 years since the world reserve currency caused Brazil and Italy and Japan and the Philippines and Qatar. Everybody had to reverse engineer their financial systems and monetary systems and currency exchanges around a corrupt central bank Federal Reserve system. Okay. How do you expose this idiocy, these stupid exchange rates, these politically manipulated tariff rates where, we have to pay tariffs on everything that goes out and China can dump everything it wants on us for free? When you go to adjust that to expose the fraud, then people go about yelling and complaining because they're trying to protect their own little turf, and they don't see the bigger picture. They don't understand that what he's trying to do is expose this fraudulent, politically manipulated, and perverted central banking system before he shoots it in the head and puts it out of its misery. Okay? And so when that happens, we have a level playing field. We have interoperability around the world. We have the idea of blockchain and transparency and accountability and atomic settlement at scale in 209 countries. That's how you level the playing field. But Trump's not a dictator. He can't go and order Japan to do this or Russia to do this or Canada or Brazil or Italy. There has to, collectively, I believe has been going on is there's been a general majority of leaders the world over that were asked one question: would you like to keep the Rothschild's boot on your neck or off your neck? And if they said off your neck, they're working together. They're working to back themselves out of this centralized, perverted shithole of a monetary system that has enslaved us all. So, how people wake up in Brazil versus America versus Japan or the Philippines, I'm not an expert at, because I don't know the Brazilian culture that well. But if I could give somebody a magic pill so they could begin to understand what's going on writ large, that we're trying to turn the global money changer tables over so that we can all have think about when David came off the hill and he put a rock right there on Goliath and took his head off and put a sword through him. Everybody lived for 1,000 years of peace and prosperity after they got rid of the tyranny of Goliath and his handlers, right? What happens when we take the head off this beast system? What happens to the world when we don't have this debt slavery tyranny that puts us all at war? We're constantly at war over tariffs or grain or oil or energy or satellites or whatever they can come up with to make us do this.
Yeah.
They have the infinite potential ability to pit us against one another. What happens when we take that ability away from them, take their world reserve currency away from them, and let Brazil make Brazil great again, and America make America great again, and Italy make Italy great again, and I don't hurt you and you don't hurt me. You want to charge me 10% tariffs? I'll charge you 10% tariffs. You want to charge me nothing? I'll charge you nothing. It becomes a contracting kind of reciprocity on a level playing field between individual sovereign nations, instead of Jerome Powell telling everybody how we're all going to live.
Yeah.
And if you haven't noticed, Trump's trying to fire Jerome Powell.
Well, I call the strategy of President Trump the strategy of peace through the plain level field.
Yes.
We are the strategy here is to find peace through business, which is our business too here in Brazil. From the day President Trump offered us this opportunity, I see everything. I'm a Japanese at soul. I believe everything is an opportunity, and in our channel here in Brazil, everyone is so calm and it's doing their work, like being the calm during the storm. Qranker knows that because he talks often with the people over the channel, and they are doing the work. But that's those questions. So Anna, am I assisting? What should I tell them? No, just hold on, and it's going to be fine. Let's wait, and that's okay, guys. That's what we were waiting for, the flip, and that's the sense of responsibility. But Brazilians, you said you don't know much about Brazilians. We are people with a big heart and a big willing to work, but to work for our family, to work for our own prosperity. And from 4 o'clock in the morning every day, there are people out on the streets working and giving their love. They are very loving people over here, and I really love my country. I love my my fellow Brazilians, and they are making me very proud through the channels, because they are looking for products made in Brazil, which they are having new business to their lives. And I mentioned yesterday and today, this is the best time for whoever is watching this. This is the best time to invest in Brazil. This is the moment your business is going to thrive in just like this. And I'm here for this. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I'm sorry, guys, to keep so chatty.
No, I love that. Thank you for the education. I appreciate that.
Oh,
That's awesome.
thank you.
Anna does a phenomenal job down there. It's I'm very proud of her. And Chile and Andy have been on her channel a couple times too. And Chile, you're from Chile. You have any questions for Rob regarding Chile and South America?
No,
You want to?
I wanted to flow Rob and Anna, our guests. I did get a chance to see your last video, Rob. Well done. You articulate well. and I loved your guest, you know, even when you guys started talking about the quantum, you know, and the the need for sovereignty when you deal not with only the AI, but we're talking about currency here. Like money was an enslaving system to start with. We could go back to the pharaohs. You mentioned Peter. So, you know, we all come from different places to it. And I love that you, like me, I grew up Christian. But, you know, when you start seeing the things that I've seen in my lifetime, from I see dead people to RH negative, that it's not, I got closer to the creator, the true creator, because you see the fingerprint. So at any time in our lives, because we have to include everybody in this, Muslim, Chinese, Korean, Mongolian, like, and we all talk the same. And this is what I have figured out, that we have different definitions of time. You know, it's the measurement, the rotation of spin, but we call it time. So to emit, you know, you're Christian, you're crystal. That's a crystal plate. When you hold this, that's the Christ in line also. So are the waters. In ancient language, from the Aleph to the Tav, to the Alpha, to the Omega. She mentioned, what was it? The mu? It wasn't lambda, lambda gold, beta gold. It was mu. What does mu have to do with, you know, equals mc squared? So these are basics. And when you start talking physics, true physics, not the crap that they teach us in captured schools, college, it's all Roman civil law. And I like how you explained some of the stuff that you do, because we're working with layman terms.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to explain the biorefringence of a tourmaline. 6.2, 6.4. It's trigonal. This is why they can make blankets out of it. This is how you get into that longitudinal wave. This is what that lady was talking about when she talked to you about H, like H. What is H? You know, the two letters that are missing, you know, in certain languages, the X, you know. So like this stuff will come to you later, and we have access maybe to a higher non-corrupted that we can maybe interface here soon with safely. And this is the problem, because, you know, from voice skull technology to bad stories, you know, we've been told you like, it's like Yoda talking to the Skywalker. To learn, you must unlearn everything you've learned. But
Yes.
don't forget spirit, right? Your definition of spirit and God. You know, people that kill in the name of God, in the name of, like, really, Salem, like, were the witches of Salem really, like, in Arabic it's Salem Aleikum. You know, it's one of those famous little, you know, even in movies like the Kingdom of Heaven, where you can see the flags. Muslims, true Christians, true Muslims are peaceful people. It's just everybody's been usurped to this Fibonacci Ouroboros, that in the end it's all to concentrate power. So your financial system that you're talking about seems to be a decentralized financial system that also can incorporate, you know, a higher, like, it has a higher system. So, you know, if you want to talk D-Wave computers, uh, you're dealing with something that's quantum. But what is quantum? Now people throwing around that term like as if they knew what the heck it was. You know, it's a measurement. It's small. It's like the atom and the football. You know, the football is the imploder, but so is the rose. So the rose has to implode before it could rise. So from the streets of Prague, where the monoatomic gold resides, and the moldavite, which is a tektite, which comes from out of there, and from the religious practices of a meteor that fell down in Mecca that they call the Eye of Lucifer. Who's Lucifer? The morning star? So as these Masons and Jesuits and old guard seem to be confessing their sins, it's okay. I forgive. But we're stepping into sovereignty, which means self-governing. But we also have to know the truth of things, because the truth cuts through everything. So I don't come at it from a religious or I see the syntax. It's like when you say we're going to release it's like, release? Are you going to recontract? Are you going to rightfully establish? What venue are we in? Is this black law? Is this old English? Like, what's up with these Bibles? There's missing Bible stories, right? So we can't judge. And as long as we maintain an open mind, which is magnetism, conscious, end, and form, the universe is a mind. This is a matrix of the mind. So when they tell you a new normal and they throw all their witchery and you have to be materia prima, prime material. You talked about it on your show, and so did Anna on her show today. Why is it that Chile and Brazil export all their materia prima, prima materia? It's in the walls of the Egyptians. It's in the walls of my people. It's in the holes of sacred lands. Prime is also genetic. So you have original bloods, you have prime materia, and we're co-creators. So if you have that prime material in your country, why should I export all my copper, my Cu, my 29, add them up, like copper is more than you think, right? To China so I could buy the tubes? Does that make sense that Brazil exports all their riches and they have to import them again? Because not because we didn't want to, it's because they crushed all our industries. When the Chinese came in, they busted all the textile, everything in Chile. You can't produce anymore because you're cows now. So we want you to grow grass in front of your yard instead of a garden. So this stuff gets deep, right down to the red Hopi corn that I have here, that if you don't sing the song, it's not going to grow because it's attached. You lick it before you plant it. Our DNA is involved. When I eat a mushroom, when we talk together, are we shareable waves? But when it comes to history, it's so fogged that I just implore people to have an open mind and love each other for what you're doing. Rob, I love you, big dog. I love Qranker. I love Anna. I love Jason. And he brings it. Jason's killing it because he brings receipts. And that truth hurts. So when you go to the core, you'll notice that the Nazis, Israel, the Vatican, La Vaticana, like, we've all been usurped, but they use our magic against us. So how can we unveil with love and peace? Because we got to do with this with peace, because Rome wants you to fight and kill each other, and we're all brothers and sisters. Somos hermanos de raça, de sangre. E hoje em dia a gente tem uma forma de falar através do computer, which is an AI. But if that AI starts changing my statements, we speak many languages. Many of our people are autistic. They could triangulate a position like they'll freak you out. We got refiners that are working with beta golds and refining.
Chile.
I'll finish right here because it's so involved, and we have to respect also that we have different points of view, and we have to forgive each other too. Because I could be wrong right now, and it doesn't matter. But as long as we walk together and we're able to shift, like shifty shift. I'll shut up now.
Just to jump into the conversation, I believe, Chile, that at some point we all need to understand that we have our own fault in all this, and although we didn't know a lot, we didn't have the books, we didn't know everything, we had inside something that was like exploding. No, this is not right. You don't have to teach what is right to anyone, right? We have it, or you don't have it. So we might have, in the last 100 years, banned to what it's wrong, and maybe it's a necessary chapter for us all to understand and to choose. No, no more. I'm done with this. I'm done with what's done to my ancestors, and what am I going to do in the future for those who are coming through me or after me, right? But so it's a lot of, don't you think, Rob? And guys, Jason, Dylan, don't you think it's a lot of topics? Mike, don't you think it's a lot of topics that we have a financial system coming up to us, but in the same time, we need to understand if we are able to, like, to grasp everything, not just, okay, have it, okay, oh, you're going to be prosperous, and don't understanding. We need to understand. We need to understand we were robbed from the moment we arrived, and it's up to us not to be robbed again and never letting this happen again. Am I right? Am I saying something
Yes,
that makes
Anna,
sense to you all?
you are so perfectly on point in that this is what we have to guard against. If you think of, like Nikola Tesla, energy, vibration, frequency, resonance, we have to, live in the now. Time, and to me, time is a man-made construct. You can almost through quantum physics prove that time does not exist. It's just a click or sand or a unit of measure, but in a quantum, if you will, in the world of omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence, in the now, there's really man makes time for measurement and control purposes. Okay. But to your point, money is over 40% of the law book. The Bible talks about money, materialism, the risk, the side effects, our relationship with money, power, status, things, possessions. Okay. If one of my best mentors in the world has told me, look, if to correlate how dangerous money can be in the wrong hands, it's almost as if, how they sell a Pfizer commercial on television and you get 30 seconds of disclaimers. You can cause blindness and gout and a broken leg and you might die. And, they have all of these disclaimers after a damn pharmaceutical commercial. If we really truly understood how dangerous money and prosperity and how people think that money is going to solve all of our problems and make all of our issues go away and make our family come back together, there ought to be a 20-minute disclaimer after every money commercial on television, because people don't understand how to relate to it. It is just a tool, period. And if we think that more tools is going to make more wealth or more happiness or more balance or more peace on earth, we don't know the laws. We don't understand our relationship to the physical, because we're thinking, well, gosh, if somebody could just flip this switch and everybody got, and they revalued gold to $10,000, we're all going to live happily ever after. That is the biggest ridiculous conclusion anyone could ever draw. Money is not going to solve our spiritual problems. Never. And what I'm afraid of is too many people are thinking, oh God, can I just hold out until they flip the money system over? And then I'll be happy and fulfilled and purposed and all that. And that they can't. We've got to stop people from going down that dead end rabbit hole, because and yes, breaking free of the control oligarchs and the debt slave masters is critically important, but that's just one step of 30 or 3,000. It's not going to solve all of our boo-boos. We still have, my station is called the Cool Show, KUWL, and the KUWL stands for knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and life. And we have to know what the operating principles are, what those quantum, what is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent? What is energy, vibration, and frequency? Am I a human being or am I a spiritual being? You know, am I purposed or do I lean on my own understanding and I figure it out myself? Do I completely submit myself to the creator who created me for a purpose? Look, if this stupid coffee cup was created for a purpose and it's a cup and there's a handle on it and there's a use case and you pour it in and you drink from it, if a cup has a purpose, I think we probably have a purpose. We were created. What is our purpose? To get $1 billion in the bank? To own 20 cars? You know, to become, I mean, what is our purpose? Why did the creator create us to be creative creators? If we can't follow that and submit ourselves totally to the creator who created us for a creative purpose, the author and the finisher, and then we submit ourselves to that purpose, then we're leaning on our own understanding, we're going our own way, and we're just doing it because it makes us feel good. We're living in the world of ego and we're worshiping ego and pride than we are the quantum infinite nature of the quantum creator, who's the author and the finisher, who knows more about why I'm here than I'll ever know. I will never know it all.
So, Rob, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
In terms of that, from a big picture, I'm looking at this from more of an educational standpoint. I mean, all of us on this panel here, you know, we've been 5 years plus into this process. But again, I see family, I know family that they're so, they know nothing, right? So can you speak to that dialogue or that conversation that would happen? Because I believe by August 1st, there's going to be the acceleration is going to begin globally, not so much just in the United States, but just globally. Can you speak to that process? Because Qranker and I have talked a couple times about that specific thing in terms of, we're going to be the people that people are going to reach out to us, and they're going to say, "I know you were that conspiracy theory guy back in 2020. You know, you were pretty right about this. I mean, we're not going to have time to sit there and there's going to be a flood of information, and then there's going to be a flood of concern." But we have to be the peacemakers in that process. So that was my question that I wanted to pose to you in this. So I appreciate your answer to that.
Sure, Mike. I think that question is so important. It's imperative because, you know, I apply two principles here to cool and the spiritual education, that knowledge that we have to get. You know, it's so much more than just knowledge, because we all know people that, you know, went to Harvard and they have a big fancy house. They go to the country club and they got 3 Teslas and they're going to the store to get their 5th vaccine shot, right? Because they know so much. Just ask them, they'll tell you, right? You know, they know it all, but what they have, it's an intellectual or an academic knowing. Okay. Beyond knowing is an understanding. It is standing under the true knowledge, capital K. You know, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge, KNOW. Not academic stuff, not textbooks, not memorizing the Encyclopedia Britannica. What kind of knowledge are we just don't know that destroys us? It's the spiritual, immutable, indestructible laws of who we are as spiritual creatures. The essence of, if we were made in the image and likeness of God and we don't know God, we sure aren't going to know ourselves. It's impossible. So there's a knowledge piece and an understanding piece. And then with the understanding comes the wisdom to know, who should I be speaking to? Am I going to be casting my pearls before deaf ears? Am I going to be throwing it on barren soil and the wisdom's going to fall in the cracks? Does this person really have an appetite to want to know and hear what I have? Are they genuinely curious? And or am I just being an egotistical jerk trying to do a flex and tell everybody how much I know, but I'm wasting my time because everybody just wants to go get another beer? So the wisdom is something we have to keep ourselves in check. But when it comes to these massive changes and people are afraid and, oh my God, and what do I do and who do I go talk to? We have a job of selling what we know. Okay. And one of the best definitions I ever got in the business world of selling is the definition of sales is the transference of a belief system from one person to another. Okay. So if I can convince you that this lawnmower's got much greater attributes and value for you to own it than the $200 in your wallet, then I'm going to get the $200 and you're going to get the lawnmower. We're going to make a trade. We're going to you're going to believe that, oh my gosh, I could do so much. I could go cut grass. I could make $250 a week cutting grass, and all I got to do, of course I'll take that lawnmower, right? It's a transference of a belief system. Okay. So in sales, people do business. They buy or they transact with people that they know, they like, they trust, and you bring them value. If people don't know you, it has to happen in that order. You can't go, oh shit, yeah, I don't know Jason Q. I've never really met him before, but sure, he can babysit my daughters. The transaction's not going to take place. I mean, I got to know him. I got to like him. I can know him and like him, but think he'd screw anything that wasn't nailed to the wall. I'm not going to let him babysit my daughter or take my wife out on it, come over to my house when I'm on a trip, right? Because I know him and like him, but I sure as shit don't trust him. So now if we're going to sell our faith, our peace, our fearlessness, our comfort in the storm, even if we're going to sell what we believe, we have to live it and own it and be it. Okay. If we're caustic and arrogant and egotistical and our, the blood veins sticking out the side of our neck and we're judgmental and we're yelling at people and telling them, well, my God, you dumbass, don't you know this and what, nobody's going to buy shit from us. Right? We have to try to the best of our ability to embody that grace and that peace and that love and that joy and have the wisdom to know, is there a question behind the question? Is this person really interested? And when they come to us and go, Jason, you don't seem to get frustrated by anything. You're cool, you're calm, you're collected. Man, I love your style, dude. What are you drinking, man? What kind of drug are you on? Can you talk to me? That's how we sell faith, not through a lecture, not through a critical analysis or showing up and throwing up on people. And if we believe in our faith as one of love and joy and peace and happiness and oneness and abundance, then we need to be peaceful and happy and joyful and one and approachable and humble. The number one thing the church misses more than anything is Jesus's greatest attribute, which is humility. He washed feet. He didn't have a title. He didn't have a bank. He didn't have an army. He didn't have a home. He lived God in the flesh, the Christ Jesus, lived to serve and died as a slave. And yet, how many in the church or in religious organizations practice that discipline of true humility? Who wants to argue over where's my seat? Where am I on the org chart? Remember, Jesus had these conversations all the time with his disciples. Who's going to be the chief vice president? Who's going to be the COO? And where do I get to be? And where's my position? And what did he say? When you learn to be as humble as this child, the child will be the one that will climb the stairs in the kingdom of heaven. The humility and the love and the joy of the child. You dumbasses ain't hearing me because you keep wanting to know where you're going to be on the org chart. And it's not about where we are in a position of power, it's how well can we serve and love other people. That's what Jesus came to teach us about it. I think if we can practice that discipline, that way, that love walk, where we treat everybody from the janitor to the mailman to President Trump exactly the same way, with love and patience and kindness, now we're starting down the way. But 10 steps to greatness, or the 3 quick steps to be a better Christian, or how to tithe more for better results. I mean,
Yeah.
it drives me nuts. But who you are speaks so loudly, no one can hear what you say. If you have an overwhelming love and joy and peace in your heart, no one can put a bucket over your candle. People will see it. They will be magnetically attracted to you. They will resonate with those that don't will leave you, and those that are magnetically attracted to you will come to you. And we will attract what we transmit out will be magnetically connected to us. And we've seen that for 5 years, right? People have come into our lives that we love, and the people that we needed to get out of our lives we haven't talked to in 4 years. Because there's no resonance, there's no connection, there's no frequency. But when we're emitting on the right channels and the right frequencies, then the right people come into our lives and our cup runneth over and we're blessed.
That's such a strong message right there. The frequencies, you know. So, Jason, you got a question for Rob?
Oh no, I was just writing down notes.
Man, I remember your closets and your books and your notes, brother, and being on with Charlie Ward. And I was just like,
And his
dear God, this
boxes,
guy just doesn't sleep, I don't think.
his boxes. I have to find out the boxes where I put this. My God, Jason it's one of the best people
The first time I ever in my life heard the letters XRP were in early 2020 on the Charlie Ward show. First
Same
time
here.
I ever learned about it.
No kidding. Wow.
Jason was on it before then, and that's why it's a treasure trove. And I know he's duplicated his library with his whole clan. Like he taught them how to print, how to get cheap ink, how to go to these websites, pay your $10. If you don't believe me, you can see it yourself. All the patents. So from healing devices to maybe craters in Venezuela, ancient sites, nodes, real sciences.
Jason, where did you come from? That's the question.
Space.
What is the currency you are operating?
Excuse me?
No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. I'm teasing you.
Oh, no.
Let me just jump in here. I want to just say it's great to meet you, Rob Cunningham, and great to have Anna on as well from Brazil. We're streaming now on New Templars for the first time, so it's a lot of firsts today. The Genius Act passed today, I believe, even though AI is telling me it passed on the 17th, which is tomorrow. XRP is past $3 as well, and a lot of the XRP channels are talking about, well, we still haven't hit the all-time high yet, but we're in this price discovery phase, people are saying. And I think this is also an amazing panel because we're merging the XLM maxis with the XRP maxis. And for a long time, these have been separate channels, and we all know half this panel, like led by Qranker, comes from QSI background that they've even discouraged people. Well, Emily has discouraged people from getting into XRP, but most of us have realized that that was not the best advice. And, we're seeing the utility in all the ISO 20022 tokens. And so I guess my question for Rob is something I've been wondering on that subject, there's kind of a little bit of a rivalry between XRP versus XLM channels. And there's debate as to which coin may have more potential, to go to the moon. I think probably both of them are going to the moon, but, will one have a higher percentage of a moonshot than the other? And then, there's also we could go in deeper to like some of these sub tokens. I think we've talked about some of the sub tokens on XR or on the XLM blockchain on this channel, like Stronghold and others that seem like they might have potential as well. But I guess my main question for Rob, I know you're, and by the way, I think you're one of the most grounded, sound, logical voices in the XRP community that also acknowledges the Q operation, because that's so important that a lot of these XRP channels don't talk about the special operations and the bigger picture of what's really going on in the world, which you do. So I really appreciate that. But if you could tell us between XRP and XLM, what has the most potential?
Well, Dylan, I appreciate that question. And, the DNA of both of those architectures is 99.9% the same, right? I mean, XLM is just a fork of the XRP ledger. So the co-founders of XRP-L were Jed McCaleb and Chris Larson and Joel Katz. So when one decided to go, whether it was a real spat or a fake spat or a manufactured spat, I don't know. But when one focused on, kind of the connecting of banks and the major rivers and connecting all of the correspondent lending and central banks and treasuries and conglomerates, and the biggest, most difficult problem in connecting through software and technologies and APIs and standards and protocols, that is a very different complex sell than it is to connect 8,000 McDonald's restaurants or small businesses or credit unions or people that are in a small and medium enterprise space, or to bring in 1.8 billion unbanked people and to get the Kenyan farmers to be able to have a bank without having to go to Chase. All they have to have is a mobile device and an internet connection. So there's an XLM focus that has a lot to do with the scale in terms of units and the number of transactions. And then you've got the XRP side. It has to do with scale at just sheer volume. We're talking about you're moving multiple quintillions of dollars around the world. It's kind of the wholesale retail kind of a, you had the freight trains the freighters that bring stuff to the dock, and then the boats get unlocked and the cargo containers get put on the train, and then the train goes to a station, they get put on an 18-wheeler, and the 18-wheeler gets taken off and taken to the Walmart store and dumped off. So you've got all these kind of containerized vessels. And I see XRP as kind of those big massive gross, settlement, high volume, institutional back office connection, those money flows at the corporate derivative, bond, stock, option, financial institutions level. And then there may be far more transactions on a scale standpoint in that small, medium enterprise. Once you get to the dock and you go to the train, the 18-wheeler, to all the different stores throughout all the 50 states in America, on a transaction size, you're probably XLM's probably going to do a hell of a lot more transactions than XRP is.
But don't you think, Rob, with that, I think, and that's the whole point of it, because I think the parallel is the same. Like Dylan was saying, the XRP more, I'd say, business industrial side of things. XLM more of that peer to peer. It's like, hey, Jason, I'm going to send you $20. I'm in Africa. Well, I don't have a bank. Well, here's $20. I think that the transactional thing on a global scale, and in terms of XLM, I think I don't want to say it benefits, or I don't think there's really I think it's a parallel, but yet it's more of a it's all about that utility, and the utility is basically, I think, between the two, it's the same. Would you agree?
They're both utility tokens. They're both, bridge tokens. If you can bridge a Kenyan guy that needs drinking water from somebody, or filters from somebody in Connecticut that's making them, and they can connect back and forth and do shipping and interoperable trade, and a guy from Kenya and Connecticut can work together. That may not be the use case or what Ripple's trying. That's not necessarily the problem that Ripple's trying to solve, but the ledgering, the atomic settlement, the transaction speed, the low cost, the low energy burn, the no need for an intermediary banker in between Kenya and Connecticut, just like there's no need of anybody between Russia and China doing oil or doing, $100 billion deals. There needs to be nobody in between that, but there doesn't need to be anybody between Kenya and Connecticut either. So the scale and the purpose and the utility and the ledgering and the settlement speeds and the efficiency are all important, but one company can't solve all the problems for banking and financial and wealth transfer in the world. You've got to have the V chains and the XDCs and the H bars and the XRPs and the XLMs and the strongholds, because look, there's just an infinitely different set of skills and use cases and scenario. Gaming, think about if you're in there and you're doing all of these stupid games and you're doing micropayments and people are, 7 zeros before you get to a 1 on a magic digital cord, and sooner or later you can get enough to cash some of that stuff out and change it into a different crypto and make it money. I mean, XRP and XLM are going to want to have crap to do with monetizing the tokenization of buying digital swords inside of a gaming console. It's just not their bit. It's not their cup of tea.
Mr. Cunningham, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you heard a lot of chatter, but the beta coin, the Bitcoin, the algorithms being done in Japanese and being the same author as XRP, because like Bitcoin maybe was the beta coin to maybe do the RICO case and bring everybody in and see who all the bad people are and maybe put them through the blockchain and what have you. But have you heard of the author being the same one? Because there's a lot of pin names and a lot of other stuff, but the algorithm, because when you do syntax, like even in Aymara, which is an old language, or Hungarian, Hebrew, it's like these things have been owned, but they're actually directional codes in computer language that are original. But what's the one on XRP? And I've heard stories from multiple sources, and I look, and I'm not a computer guy, but I'm a language guy, linguistics, from hieroglyphics, petroglyphics, symbols, monads. So even through the fabric of our nation's people that have been communicating ever since in code, because it's the only thing that breaks the algorithm. And even sigils and emojis, it's like you can actually condense stuff.
So Chile, we want to know
what
about.
I'm saying is, like, do you know about that? Because I hear so many stories, and I tried to get pattern recognition, but people that are pushing XRP, is it true that it's the same author as Bitcoin? Have you heard anything like that?
The best book I think you can ever read is a book, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Finding Satoshi. Okay. And the book is written by a forensic journalist, an investigative forensic journalist that looks at the profiles of people and the patterns and their work history and their background and the authenticity and the genuineness of who they are. And this gentleman that wrote this book has distilled down to who he thinks Satoshi actually is as an actual person. Okay. And out of 80 or so different probable candidates, he's brought it down to one through his forensic science. Okay. And I just got the book and just got into it, but a very dear, respected friend of mine that briefed me on this has spoken hundreds of hours to Satoshi. So he believes he knows he is a man. He also knows that the reason a lot of those original Bitcoin are missing is because he lost his keys and he almost committed suicide. He went into depression for 9 months and he still hasn't recovered from it. And one of his biggest problems is he's kind of on the spectrum. He's kind of smart, very smart. He can't deal with the processing of how much he's lost and can't find and can't recover. But he is, in fact, indeed an actual person. Now, that's the conclusion of this book, Finding Satoshi, combined with an individual that I know, love, trust dearly, and is a brilliant mind that has had hours and hours and hours of conversation with him, and he can confirm the book. Now, that doesn't mean that a lot of people haven't got caught up by Bitcoin, that they haven't get the Tether's not pumping it, that it's not a, we're on Chrome. What is that web browser number 18? Mozilla was number 1. Just because Bitcoin was first doesn't make it the best. We're on the 18th web browser now. So, there's a lot of cult, religion, narcissism, pride, ego, and misdirection having to do with Bitcoin versus all these other, it's almost cult-like. And who benefits from division? Controllers do. People that want to keep us fighting, confused and dazed and not taking any action. So, if you go back and look, I did this this morning and posted it on my timeline, but if you go down and look, the day that President Trump was inaugurated, January 10, 2017, Bitcoin was $1,000. It's up 118x. XRP was 0.00642 cents. It's up 465x. It's up XRP is up almost 4x more than Bitcoin since Trump was inaugurated in 2017. But it's a shit coin, remember? No one's ever going to use it and leave it alone. And the media doesn't talk about it. And yeah, Jamie Dimon wanted to buy them and they said no. So Bill Hinman gave a free pass speech and that excluded XRP and then everybody went radio silent. The media wouldn't talk about XRP unless it was in a derogatory way. And then Jay Clayton decides to sue them with the SEC on the way out the door because, it's a shit coin. And that's what the Federal Reserve does. If you're a small startup, private company in Silicon Valley, then the most powerful institution in the world, obviously they send the SEC out to sue you for 3 years because, you're a shit coin. I mean, does anybody believe that? I mean, they knew the disruptive nature of what XRP was, the technology of XRP, the patented power of that utility bridge token that was XRP that would basically transport anything of value to any location in 3 seconds or less with atomic settlement at almost no cost. They understood that the technology of XRP literally gutted all of the fees and these bankers that own the SWIFT monetary system and the railing system, they mark up their cost 100 to 200x on what it costs to send $1,000 from point A to point B. Their costs are nothing, but they mark it up to some exorbitant fees, and XRP was going to eat all of that away. Now you know why the forces from hell have been unleashed on Ripple and the XRP system and the XRP ledger, and why all of these influencers are trying to derogatory, destroy, and character assassinate and make anybody that even utters the words XRP a domestic terrorist, right? Because they've been sent to do that, or they've been miseducated because transparency and light and next to free is the enemy of central bankers. It is the vampire's sunlight. Vampires don't like light. XRP brings the light. There's the reason. If you want to understand why they hate it, follow the money, because it breaks up their monopoly.
Rob, the other thing
Could you expand that sovereign?
Hold on, Chili. Chili, hold on. Let's let some other people get in. So the other thing is that when you wire money across, these banks make money on all these wires, and then they use your money for weeks. And sometimes you can wire money, and it'll take a week to 10 days before the recipient receives that money because the bank uses that money. And this is what XRP will take out.
And then they use
Okay.
the AI bots, and they can trade your bots
Correct.
overnight, 24 hours or 72 hours or 7 days, and they can make a gazillion trades using your money, and they just say that's just the way it is, while
Absolutely.
they're micro trading the crap out of your money for free. They're getting
Yes.
a free loan while they use your money.
Right. Excellent. Hey, I'm going to bring Andy in, and I want to give you a little background on Andy. Andy's the one who taught me about crypto. And, you know, 2 years ago, him and I got into a pretty deep discussion, and our friend Bruce was along with, and we were having dinner, and he said we were involved with QSI, and QSI was telling us one thing, and Andy says it's not going to happen until 2025, boys. I'm just telling you, it ain't happening until second, third, for sure by fourth quarter. And he's been 100% right on the money on everything. So I want to open a question up to Andy. What do you would like to ask Rob, or have a conversation with Rob about? Because I know you two know probably more about the crypto business than most.
Well, first of all, I just want to, say it's a pleasure to have everybody on this panel, especially Rob. You coming in on to speak your knowledge and articulate the way you do it. I love it. For me, I don't have a lot of questionable financial, institution stuff, because I got a little bit of a long history of research. But for me, maybe the aspect of the things that are happening for the power putting up. For like lately, I've been seeing these straight towers be put up with no panels or nothing on them, with like a straight copper rod right out the top. And then, I would like to get your take maybe on what you think for.
I think we lost
He's breaking
Andy.
up. It was a really bad
Yeah.
audio. I couldn't hear very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he shared this picture with me. This is what he was saying. He's seeing a lot of these popping up, like a 5G tower with nothing on top.
Mhm.
So is that maybe preparations for Tesla tower technology being released? Or
Well,
Andy, if I'm assuming wrong what you were saying there, you can correct me.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
your
I might have cut
connection's a
out
little
there.
bit choppy.
No, my connection is it's I'm cutting in and out, so I'm sorry about that, guys. But for me, I've seen two of these pop up in a matter of 2 weeks and randomly fast for something to be put up like that out of nowhere, to have no real antennas or anything on it, rather than just a copper rod out of the top. I mean, it looks like copper to me, but I mean, and so if you elaborate on that, and then your position on XDC for the bridging for XFIN network and R3 and the things that are coming on to, in my opinion, the Stellar XLM network, to help bring the banking to the unbanked of the entire African ecosystem, and all these other countries have been robbed for years of their financial freedom, just like we have.
Yes. I look, as far as the towers are concerned, the more we know, the more we know we don't know. And so much has been hidden from us, whether it's the 6,500 patents of Nikola Tesla, whether it's how many of these communication cells are buried underneath the Antarctica that they use for directed energy weapons to kill us, to do this secret air traffic control system with ships or travel vehicles that we don't even know about or can't see. These floods that I've seen in the last week or two look strangely, or almost 100% to me, they're coming up from the bottom. They're not coming from the top down. So they must be coming from the center of the core of the earth, because I think there was 3 to 4 weeks of no rain in Texas in Camp Mystic, and all of a sudden they have 28 feet of water and everybody's dead. Well, how do you have a flood if you haven't had rain in 4 weeks? So there's so much that we don't know. We're not, I had top secret military clearance. I've flown in, Desert Storm, and lived in Saudi Arabia for a while. And I know how tight things can be, and how on a need to know basis, you only get to know what you need to know. But if you're not read into what's going on, you can't guess it. It's not just I'm going to, have a V8 juice in the morning and figure all this stuff out. If those towers are being put up because there's some kind of Nikola Tesla energy, power, receptivity, and if there's 0 point energy and we could actually have cars that drive without a plug and without a source and without fuel, I believe there is. We just don't know it. It's been taken from us and stolen from us or neutralized in some way. So those towers, we can't necessarily jump to the conclusion that they're bad and evil or up there for nefarious purposes. Maybe they're up there for free cellular services. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a Tesla phone and everybody in the world gets a brand new Tesla phone because that's going to be their bank and their medical doctor and their, their method of communication and their passport. And I don't know, if we get rid of these central banking control freaks and we have the sovereignty and it can be codified, then it would make sense that the people that want to keep us in fear and locked in fear and slaves on the slave ship would have a campaign out there to make us think that everything digital is of the beast, when in fact it's not. They would want to slow our adoption because they would want to scare the hell out of us about the adoption, right? I mean, it's
Right.
almost like to try to process this fixation on Epstein and everything that's going on right now. If we don't know that the biggest liars on planet Earth created fake FISA courts and fake Russia things and fake impeachments and fake pandemics and fake, border invasions and fake wars and false flags and directed energy weapon at Lahaina and LA and weather modification, do we think they'll do all that? But they're not capable of manufacturing a bunch of evidence and files about the Epstein files with Trump's name all in them, and then get the masses and the mobs to beg for the release of the documents so that it'll tank Trump? Is there any chance they would manufacture fake records like they did a fake disease? And then get people, how Donald Trump came out and said, one day I'd like to just lose everything to see who's loyal. You don't know. What if the fake MAGA people right now are showing themselves and saying, get him, he's a liar, he doesn't care about human trafficking. If he did, he would let go of the files. What if he knows the files are fraudulent? Now what's happening? Who's being exposed? Trump, the liar that hates kids and wants to, profit off of human trafficking? Or is he exposing the people that are dishonest and crooked as hell?
All the while ignoring the executive orders that he signed to catch
Yeah.
all of the very people that are doing those things. Yes.
And he's going to put all of these assholes' property in the sovereign wealth fund, and he's going to put them all in jail or under the ground. But, he's covering up for his own illicit activity. Come on. I mean, are we really?
Right. And so
it makes me want to just
question of the
crack my
towers
head.
being asked, what is your take, Rob, on that they built for the border? Because through my research, through everything I've looked from the 360 view, I came across a piece of information that said it might be part of emitting the free energy. It might actually be for them to help emit the free energy as like a Tesla wall, for say. Ever heard anything like that?
Well, I have not heard that per se. I did hear a very brilliant lady, Nino Rodriguez, just interviewed a couple of 3 days ago, talking about the importance of the Panama Canal and why it was so significant from a border invasion standpoint, a national security standpoint, a vulnerability of the Chinese owning and operating that thing when they shouldn't have given it away in the first place. And she's written a book. I think it's sanctioned by President Trump. It's 400 or 500-page book. But one of her things is the critical nature of having foreign globalists, if you will, having such access, ownership, and control of all operations of the Panama Canal and approving everything that goes back and forth, from fentanyl to weapons to diseases to bioweapons to all that kind of stuff, and we're not controlling it, and forces hostile to us are. I mean, one of the things that was right underneath our nose was the Gulf of Mexico and the Panama Canal, and she connected some pretty powerful dots as to why, they want to, Trump wants to take it back and has taken it back and has gained control over that from a national sovereignty, national security standpoint. But, I know just enough about this to be dangerous and sound dumb, because I don't have all the facts. I don't know if it's good or if it's bad or what they're being put up for. Could they be used for good? Look, no thing is good or evil. It's the hand that's on it and the intent of the heart. The gun can be used to kill a deer for food or murder somebody. The gun's not good or bad. It's the hand on the gun this controls everything. So I wish I knew what those antennas were, those towers were, what their purpose was, but I have to eat a big old chunk of humble pie because I don't have a clue. I don't know.
No, I just figured I would ask because how we're transitioning to possibly one North America, South America, all being united with possibly maybe Australia and Canada and all this. So in the transition of all these things that are talked about, the wall really doesn't make sense to me if this is where we're going, to have to put that up to separate us. Maybe it was for some more energetic purpose.
Well, I
with
can
the house built in Texas.
let me give you a
project.
let me offer a working thesis as to why maybe the wall was necessary. The Q drops talk about saving Israel for last and why, and there's all the historical confusion over the synagogue of Satan and Jews in name only, and the Khazars, and the difference between an Orthodox Jew, right, and what's the name I'm thinking of? The no,
Shabbat.
no. There's the two versions. There's the Orthodox traditional Torah, faith loving, Orthodox Jew, and then there's the I guess
Sabbatean Frankist.
basically, yeah, and the name will come to me, but the point of the matter here is, if in fact America's the golden calf and everything we've been told is a lie, we're the bank in the world. We have to pay tariffs everywhere. Nobody else has to pay tariffs to us. They suck all of our wealth and all of our energy. Example A, they print money out of thin air. They give it to the CIA. The CIA gives it to, USAID, and then they fund 55,000 NGOs, all that hate our guts and want to destroy us and kill us. So we have a hidden hand of government interested in destroying everything that America represents. And to take it one step further, America's birth certificate was born on a love letter to God. The Declaration of Independence was a covenant love letter that said, before we put pen to parchment, we recognize that all of our rights and all of our existence comes from God, the Creator. We have unalienable rights given to us, and the right to life, liberty, and property come from God before 56 signers put their ink on that piece of parchment. So if God made a covenant to us and made us promises and made us sovereign and gave us all of these unalienable rights and gave us oneness and gave us purpose and gave us free will, and we reciprocate by writing a birth certificate to God, acknowledging Him that He gave us all these rights and we're going to live by Him. If there were evil forces on this world that wanted to destroy a nation that made a covenant with God, kind of like they destroyed Christ, America would be that place they'd want to destroy, isn't it? They'd feed us crap. They'd feed us ego. They'd feed us poisons. They'd feed us vaccines. They'd send us to war. They'd introduce racism and wokeism, and they'd pit us against one another. And, they introduce drugs and heroin and poppy seed. If we're the magic piggy bank that's being milked and money is being sent all over the world, if that is a plausible operating idea or concept, then that Mexican border not having a wall up on it is a vulnerability to us to stop that from happening. Because all they're doing is looping drugs and terrorists and weapons and guns and poisons and, whatever through that border. And if we needed to stop the bleeding until we could fix the patient, maybe the wall was that Band-Aid to stop the bleeding. It depends on the
maybe also, wake people up in the process. I've had people, allow that space to be over that time.
Andy,
Possibly,
Andy,
but for that,
you're really breaking up, Andy.
yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I need to take a walk. I'm up on my property, and just kind of where I'm at.
Sure. So, Rob, let's touch base on this. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark here. Let's touch base with
XTC.
Andy. We're going to move forward, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
So the Bitcoin, and I just I had this conversation earlier today, and everyone's looking at Bitcoin being at $118. My take on it, and I'm interested in hearing your take on it, that's all based on fiat dollar. Because if you look at the dollar is only worth about 3.75 cents per dollar. So it's really not worth $118. It's a fabric.
It's a notional number, not a purchasing power number.
There, yeah. And I think a lot of people need to hear this because they go, oh my God, Bitcoin's no, it's fiat money that it's based off of. And with that being said, my theory is this, that we're going to see XRP grow, we're going to see XLM grow, but we have to have the precious metals be reevaluated before all this really takes off because it's asset-backed currency. What's your take on that?
Yes, I think there's multiple things that we have to consider. I mean, let me use an example. If everything in our banking accounts or our income stayed the same, nothing went up, but the cost of food, oil, housing, cars dropped by 50%, we'd be 2x wealthier. Our net worth would have doubled, our purchasing power, our lifestyle would have doubled. So if we have true money that doesn't melt like an ice cube, that doesn't inflate or get debased away because it's fiat, because it's printed out of thin air, and there's nothing backing it, let's say that we have actual true store of value money that's represented 100% by a tier 1 asset, which could be a debt note, a treasury bill, gold, silver, platinum, things like that. If money is backed and it's deflationary, not inflationary, and our purchasing power becomes more powerful and our money doesn't shrink away at 3% a year, then we can become powerfully wealthy overnight just with a little bit of growth in the GDP and real money and no inflation and no taxes. All of a sudden, President Trump, if you remember when he made his announcement for the second term to run, he said we are going to have, his focus is going to be 10 brand new freedom cities. People are going to be able to work and sustain their families on one income that will allow them to own a home and a new car on a single income. That can happen in a bunch of different ways. It doesn't require people owning Bitcoin, then Bitcoin going to $700,000. There's a whole lot of different ways. Money can be sound again. Inflation can go down. These tariffs can level the playing field. We can shift the burden of income taxes and make it fair across the board instead of us having these massive tariffs and nobody else having any tariffs. And so now we're, between FICA and sales and state and federal and tech. And next thing you know, I mean, we're being taxed 45% before we even go to the grocery store, and then gift taxes and ad valorem taxes and your car taxes and I mean, we're just worker slaves to pay off the debt that goes all to the central bankers. What happens when that whole business model goes away?
So, Rob,
Our wealth can explode, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the top line number of what's the price of Bitcoin or XRP today. There's a lot more variables involved in that equation than just a nominal number.
Real quick, I wanted to ask about Trump was on I think it was OAN, or he was just standing there and had the mic in front of him. The reporter asked him about what exactly you just said about. I think he was referencing August 1st and about the money transfer that's going to happen. Are you excited about that? And the guy knew nothing about that. So I think that's somewhat to what you're talking about in terms of, whether it's XRP, XLM, or whatever it is. I think there's going to be a shift, and it's going to come back to whether it's a revaluation or whatever it is.
What if there were Chinese elder families that had $100 trillion worth of gold, and they wanted to make sure that our debt was paid off, and all of a sudden we started out with a payment and we had sound currencies, we still had treasuries, we still had to operate. But what if, I ask people this question all the time, what if we today, as we're speaking, do we live in a $37 trillion debt world, or do we have $175 trillion of assets? We've just believed the lie, and we think we're broke and we're all peasants and we're all going to go bankrupt. And well, the corporation is going to go bankrupt. The Federal Reserve is going to be a museum, and Jerome Powell is going to be out of a job, and we're not going to be printing funny money anymore. So do we live in a negative $37 trillion world or a positive $175 trillion world? They've stolen our wealth and hid it underneath the Vatican and wherever else they can hide it, for decades and decades and decades. What does the Bible say about the wicked will store up the riches of the people and it'll be returned to the righteous? Are we at a return the wealth to the righteous stage? If it's happened many times in the past, who's to say there can't be good people that have? Charlie Ward knows a thing or two about money movement and stuff around the world, and who's got the gold and who doesn't, and Morgan dollars and all kinds of side deals and side hustles that we've never been made privy to. Okay? There is so much abundance in this world. The biggest lie and the spell we have been cast under is that we're broke and we're poor, and can I have some more porridge, please? That's the biggest lie that we've all taken hook, line, and sinker.
Amen. Amen. Listen, we're coming up on 2 hours, Rob, and I want to be respectful to your day. I know you've been doing a lot of podcasts, and you also have a lovely wife and family at home too. So,
and she brought me some homemade ice cream too. Look at that.
Awesome. That's cool as hell. Yeah. Anna, do you have any last questions? And hopefully, Rob, you'll come back, and visit with us again. We'd love to have you again.
Only if I get to spend 30 minutes just listening to Jason go off.
Okay, we promise. Anna, you have any last questions for Rob?
Oh no, just a wealth of knowledge and nice talk, and it's easy to listen. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's my first time here, so I hope we meet again.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I feel like family, and Mike, where are you? Where are you? What part of the world do you live in?
I'm in the belly of the beast in Chicago, Illinois. So,
my goodness,
I'm telling you, you gotta sit there and I apologize for myself, right? So, yeah.
We'll say a prayer for you.
Thank you.
Dylan, do you have anything you want to ask Rob before we leave?
I don't have any more questions, but I do want to add we got Rob's links and Anna's links in the description, as well as for WENOTME, Jason Q. So definitely follow Rob on X, a wealth of knowledge on all cryptocurrency related subjects, and he's got that special secret operations background as well. So it was great to have you on, and yeah, we do hope you'll come back sometime and drop some more wisdom.
I'm honored to be here and to meet all of you guys. And Qranker, thank you for reaching out and staying with me and getting me to come online. This is just awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Well, we thank you, and I know you're busier than hell, and we appreciate all the time and effort. You're one of the great patriots in this movement. And Jason, you got any bombs for us before we close out?
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, of course he does. Come on.
So while everybody's talking, I'm of course thumbing through things. A lot of people miss what today is. 7/16/1999, the start. JFK Jr. Right? 7/16/2025 is 23 pain. If you add it all up, 7/16/99 is a 23 pain also. Didn't they sign the Genius Act today?
Yes.
The 7 and a 1, you invert it to 17. And also the stuff about Tim Walz wanted Klobuchar assassinated for the Senate seat. Wow. What does that sound like? Hillary Clinton, 99, right? So we're going to dig into little Brazil, Anna. You're going to love this. There's a big reason why this is all going down for Bolsonaro, right? Because, let me pull this up, because we have it saved. So
I love this. All right, I gotta go get a 6-pack of beer, and you can't stop for an hour. Okay.
Can I share screen, Dylan, by chance?
Will you request?
Yes. There you go.
Got
Oh
it.
boy. Oh boy. So you're gonna get that half hour real quick. So look at the AI, right? As of July 2025, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro is facing serious accusations related to an alleged coup attempt following his defeat in 2022 presidential election. Tell me if this sounds like it's mirrored, because it is. The key points of the accusation include coup plot. Bolsonaro is accused of leading a coup plot aimed at overturning the results of the 2022 election, in which he lost to Lula, right? But Lula is a devout communist. He's in the Workers' Party. That's why Trump cannot have him in there. No more of this Workers' Party, no more of this communism, no more of this socialism. Get rid of it all. The Brazilian chief prosecutor has called for a guilty verdict, stating Bolsonaro acted systematically to incite insurrection and destabilize the democratic order. Boy, what does that sound like? But wait, it gets better. Armed criminal organization. The prosecution alleges that Bolsonaro was part of an armed criminal association that sought to violently overthrow the democratic government. Whenever you hear democratic government, you already know it's communism.
Right.
Democracy plus socialism is communism. This includes accusations of attempting to create an environment conducive to violence and a coup. Insurrection and violence. The charges stem from events surrounding the January 8th, 2023 storming of government buildings by Bolsonaro's supporters, which occurred just days after Lula's inauguration. Bolsonaro did not formally concede his election defeat and had previously suggested, without evidence, that the election could be marred by fraud. Political persecution claims. Bolsonaro has denied all allegations, labeling them as a witch hunt. And asserting that he has never violated democracy or the Constitution. He claims that the accusations are politically motivated. Additional charges. In addition to the coup-related accusations, Bolsonaro also faced allegations of overseeing an illegal spying network during his presidency, which reportedly targeted political rivals, journalists, and environmentalists. Wow, doesn't that sound like the Q drops? But Bolsonaro, right? The B is a 2. Trump, the T is a 2-0, but you don't count the zeros. So, January 6th, 2021 to January 8th, 2023 is 2 years, Trump, and 2 days, Bolsonaro, right? All seen this. Now, because this Lula, he got in at 1/1/23 and he was in the Workers' Party. Social and economic issues. Typical communist. Now, also, this year, on 7/11/1933, it's 92 years since the IRS was founded. And all they were founded for was bookkeeping, ledgering. Because the Bureau of Internal Revenue went out in the 50s because our debt was paid off. The problem is that this IRS was created by three people. There was a husband and wife. Their last name was Barton, and there was Luis Echeverria, which I found the same last name in the JFK files, but not the same first name. There was a Lawrence Echeverria. In fact, Lawrence Echeverria was the one that helped start the IRS. So there was another one. So for the past 100 years, they've been pushing worldwide communism through Judaism and Catholicism, because they both worship, unlike our God, they worship a different one. Let's see. Why August 1st is a huge, huge day? Because back in 1942, ex parte Quirin went into effect. And what that is it is the case of the United States Supreme Court during World War II that upheld the jurisdiction of the United States Military Tribunal over the trial of 8 German saboteurs in the United States. Quirin has been cited as a precedent for the trial by military commission of any unlawful combatant against the United States. Everybody here that's pulling all this Antifa, all this immigration, it's all unlawful combatants. It was argued on 3 days, July 29th, July 30th, and July 31st, 1942, which means August was the hot month, with an extended opinion filed, of course, the next day on October 29th, 1942, because the first drop was October 28th. Then, let's see. That one, this one. Oh, when it comes to Epstein, right, guys, Epstein. Oh, it's all in the drops. Who's the prosecutor we haven't heard from yet? Huber, right? It's all in the drops. I mean, it's literally they told us in the drops. Let me see. And also, there is who started the Epstein investigation. Sessions did. But Sessions gave it to Huber. So now, when you look at this whole time frame, right, we're told to trust Ray, trust Kansas, which can be either Leavenworth or Pompeo. Because remember, Christopher Wray was in the FBI. Boom, Pompeo's CIA, right? What did they get before anybody? They got all the Epstein stuff. Because where is it all being stashed? Southern District of New York. So who are they protecting? The mega group. All the Jews, billionaires, right? So now when we look at this, because it all comes down to the wall means so much more. Infiltration over invasion. Not infiltration instead of invasion, infiltration over invasion. We've already been infiltrated by the likes of Karen Bass, which was in the Vince Ramos Brigade. All of these progressive, Democrats in general. The Democrats are strictly communist. If you look at when you look at the Republican Party and you look at all the parties that, different parties within the Republican Party, just like Republican. But Democrats, you've got the Workers' Party, you've got the Socialist Party, you've got the Communist Party USA. It's all a part of it. What they did was and we have it cited because it was the Catholic Charities and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, both of them together, they came together to pull this off again. When I say again, it's because in the early 60s, 1960 to 1967, there was an Operation Peter Pan that was flying all these, teenage boys to America from Cuba and all these other places, right? Some of these people that were in Operation Peter Pan, they're judges now. So they brought the communists in, and this was all under Eisenhower. Again, when people say Eisenhower was a complete prick. He sold this out numerous times. So now the Catholics and the Jews, because we hate to clump them all in, but what else are we supposed to call them? You can't say Zionist because this goes way back. So what they were doing was they were wanting to overthrow America and destroy its Constitution in order to put in its communist New World Order or the Nazi World Order or the Nephilim World Order. Because we know the Nephilim are here through specific paintings. The painting of Obama, the painting of Clinton, and the painting of Bush. Because when you look at in fact, I'll bring it up real quick. When you look at the painting of Clinton, right? It's like, guys, it's simple math. I mean,
The 6 fingers.
yep.
Isn't that what the indigenous people used to say? How? Because they wanted to see how many fingers you had?
Yep. You're exactly right. Now, blue dress. Like, oh, it's a blue dress. Like, guys, there's a thumb. There's a finger. That's 2. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 fingers. That's 1, right? Then we go to Obama.
Real quick, while you're showing that, Jason, I want to show you what popped up on my phone. I don't know. Can you see this?
USD
This, this was as of the stablecoin bill passed today. This is on Coinbase, and it's a screen grab that shows 1 IQD translates into 5.65 RLUSD effective August 1st.
Wow. There's a bomb.
Ooh.
There's a bomb.
There's your payment date that you were talking about.
So
Looks like the RV's coming in August, huh?
actually, both could be true at the same time. You could have the arrest and you could have the RV because you have to make sure you're getting them off the board because you can't have any of them here when all this gets rolled out.
Yeah, and the RV can be another sting operation too to catch more of the criminals.
Yep. Just like Obama right here. His thumb's hidden, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the 5th one tucked under. See? Because his thumb's hidden. 6
Yep.
fingers.
Yep.
And the same thing with George Bush.
Jason, what is that calm when they show you the 6 fingers? What is the calm?
Nephilim.
Nephilim. Okay.
Yep. Pure evil. And now we see because that the movie They Live documentary, but we were looking at V for Vendetta, right? You know how Melania was dressed up. What about the other V movie? V and V the Final Battle. Because what were they eating? White rabbits. I mean, they're just.
And stars, right? Stars are the like
Jason,
rats backwards.
Jason,
Yes.
the president of Brazil right now, or the fake president, as I consider him, he doesn't have 1 finger. He has only 4 fingers. What does it mean? Yeah.
Was one lost like it? Did he work on the rail yards or something? He lose one?
Well, he said so. He said that he lost during work, and that's why he became this person who was he became invalid. So he was put it up to retired, and then he entered the politics arena. That's his explanation.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna dig into
But he
him.
doesn't. Yeah.
Worst explanation that he could ever give.
Oh yeah, sure.
We are gonna dig into him.
But nowadays he has been having 5 fingers as we do. Nowadays he has appeared with his hand complete.
Central casting. Central casting.
But the Clinton I met, he only had 5 in each hand.
I
So
think
how
it's
long we have been listening to the movie, watching
isn't
the
it
movie?
allegorical, Jason? Like a Nephilim
No,
blood?
it's not allegorical. I think it's literally, right, Jason? It has to be literal.
Jason, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. You mentioned the Southern District of New York and how corrupt it is and how it has to be corrupt. The Jay Clayton is the one that basically dropped the lawsuit on Ripple and left. Some people say it had to be done to basically sort of put Ripple in protective custody, put him in a lawsuit where everybody had eyes on him 24/7, and you could see what was happening. That was the safest place for them to be. But a lot of people hate Jay Clayton for doing it, even though he's friends with Trump. Then he goes back to Perkins Coie and he makes a bunch of money on Ethereum after the lawsuit. But now what does Trump do? He gets elected and puts him in charge of the SDNY. Why is Jay Clayton back at the SDNY? You have thoughts on that?
Well, a lot of people that he's put in, you keep your friends closer, your enemies closer. Just like Howard Lutnick, when he said that, it's like, oh, all right, we're going after 9/11 again.
Yeah, Howard Lutnick's a bad dude.
Oh, very bad. But the best part is that it's just like anything. If you need something from somebody, right? And you know these people are bad, right? You pull them and you say, listen, we know what the hell you did. We know everything. Either you play ball with us and we're going to change this whole United States of America back into a constitutional republic with sound money, or bye-bye. Which one do you want? It's just like Wilbur Ross, because Wilbur Ross is the one that bailed him out in the 80s, in the late 80s. He's the one that co-signed over the loan with Rothschild Company. If it wasn't for Wilbur Ross, Trump wouldn't even have this opportunity. So he's just paying him back a favor, but he kept them close. And if you notice, they're both in the Department of Commerce. Something we're going to get rid of. But also with the Department of Commerce, that's why he's pushing the tariffs. Because everybody's like, oh, well, Mount McKinley. When he's like, oh, we have to rename, Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley. Of course, we said that years ago. But McKinley got shot at a World's Fair. Irony at its finest. And who stepped in? Theodore Roosevelt. Everybody's like, oh, he's such a... No. Any of the Roosevelt, might as well...
One of the worst ever. One of the worst ever.
And that's the thing. Trump says that Biden is worse than the 10 worst presidents. I'm like, just going to Carter alone. I mean, everything that Carter put in, you have FEMA, you've got Department of Education, you've got everything, every single thing. He's the one that gave away the Panama Canal for $1.
I think the best way, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong here, but literally the worst president to ever serve in the office is Obama. And the auto pen was Obama's third term, weaponized to kill and destroy as virulently as he could. Everything in that Biden era was Obama's calling the shot.
Well, Obama was a CIA asset out in during the Afghan, Pakistan, Soviet wars.
Yep. 80 and 81, I think they knew he was in the CIA and not at college, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then when he went to go see his mom that was working at the Ford Foundation in Pakistan, it's like, I'm just going to visit my mom. It's like, that's odd too, because
he was with like Brennan and the other asshole that he brought on his presidential advisory team, 20 years later, it's all just one big cartel of hell,
And that's you start looking at these people and digging into them, and you're like, these people are like next level evil. So that's why when people are like, oh well, like when you're mentioning, oh, they got to fire this, fire that, and going after Trump, it's like, did you guys like not read the Q drops or anything? Or You know, because they're the first ones to say, "Oh, see, Trump's on the list." Trump is a germaphobe. He was only around that stuff. He didn't go to the island. He just used a plane once to go from Florida to New Jersey. That's it. So if you think about it, when they're like, "Oh, he's on Epstein's plane," well, if the plane's there and it's chartered, you don't know whose plane it is. You just chartered a plane. If the plane's there, it's like, how did Epstein afford a plane?
I think it's important too, Jason, that some of the names on that list may have been there to infiltrate and gather information of what's going on down there too. Not everyone may be guilty.
Yeah, but also, when they talk about islands down there, guess who else had an island? Trump did. I wonder who was on that island. You know, if you have to hide somebody, such as, I don't know, maybe after November 22nd, 1963, hide somebody? They had him on an island. So now, remember, JFK Jr. comes out, "Oh, stepdads are awesome." It's like, why was there an N1 on the island? Who was the N1? It was JFK. So now you look with Jr., everything's being done twice. He's going to be coming out because, of course, today, that all happening. And also, a lot of this goes back to he who has the gold makes the rules. Now, when President Trump and Melania went to dine at the Forbidden City, right? First foreign dignitary ever to dine there. But, and I'll have to find a picture, but when you see the picture of them standing there, and you have to see how they're all standing because Melania's in the middle, which is odd. Or is it? So, what if everything's running through her? Queen Bee, right? Trump was on one side, Xi was on the other. But then, 2 rows back behind Xi, there was a monk that had a gold head. So, what was exchanged there? Probably the 𝕯𝖊𝖚 gold certificate. The 640,000 metric tons of gold that was stashed in the Philippines between World War I and World War II. They had to keep it out of their hands. So then this comes out. And when I tell you this, I'm like, this is beyond beautiful. Now, Trump just went to the World Cup 25, right? But second paragraph down, Trump attended the FIFA final at MetLife Stadium Sunday evening, where Chelsea Football Club trounced Paris's Saint Germain Football Club in what the president aptly describes as a bit of an upset. Why was it an upset? Who's Saint Germain? The man with the fist up. That's who. It's him. It's totally him. Because why would he say that? And then you look at the 𝕯𝖚 gold certificate. You look at the Green Hilton meeting, where that was just a couple of days before JFK was shot, when he went over to Indonesia and they signed all the gold over. So in order for that gold to come back, it had to come back to somebody that was, let's just say, divine in nature. Because when you look back on Trump's whole life and you look back and mirror it with other people's lives, Trump's been Cyrus the Great, George Patton. It's all reincarnation, but he still knows who he was. Because when it says read the Bible, if you read Second Chronicles at the end, it even mentions about building a new temple in Jerusalem for a way lower cost. What happened? President Trump went over there. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And he's like, well, how much is it going to cost? They're like, oh, a couple billion. I was like, a couple billion? Don't we have a building over there already? Then he started bragging about the 400,000. Everybody's like, oh, he's bragging. He's like, no, he's throwing his comms guys like he's lobbing them. Because even Kushner's like, yeah, 400,000. And then he came back about a month later. He's like, yeah, 500,000. I'm like, which is it, sir? Which is it? D5. So, I mean, when we look at all this, and then when you look at the whole Epstein thing, because there's been a couple interviews. There was a Eric Weinstein interview out just a couple days ago, and that one, when he's talking about Epstein, he's like, and he hates him. I mean, hates him. He's like, I don't know how he knew me or anything, but he's like, Epstein was tied to the mathematics program at Harvard. As soon as he said that, bells and whistles went off. I'm like, oh, Harvard, you mean Larry Summers with Soros created the Russian oligarchs? You go to Russian oligarchs, you go to Ukraine. You go to Ukraine, what's Ukraine famous for? Child trafficking, organ harvesting, just like Israel. So you think it's all the kids and everything, but it's not. They're moving all this big money for all these people, right? Well, how do you keep moving mass amounts of money secret, but still having the same amount? Why is Bitcoin the only crypto that's at 118,000? The rest of them are all pennies. What are they using Bitcoin for?
Yeah,
Because if you were following the money, we would see massive, massive financial trackings of children being bought and sold.
So there's people out there saying it says beta testing coin. I've always thought it's baby trafficking coin.
Well, thing is because when, like, personally, I look at this and then you look at all the crypto coming up, right? All these, I mean, even down to President Trump's meme coins, right? That him and Melania did, right? And then what happened? They got rug pulled by who? Israel. Every time. Because they pride themselves on cybersecurity, but then they're the ones that are doing all the rug pulls to just steal the money and funnel it back. And it's getting everybody else in trouble. But Trump caught him in a trap, because if you catch him once, you're like, okay, that's just a one-time thing. But if you catch him more than once, and especially went after him, because there is actually a patent, a TD Waterhouse patent about nailing Trump on pump and dump scams. So, I mean, there's so much to this that it's.
I'm sure we could go another 2 hours, Jason.
Jason, is it RICO? Can you explain RICO to some people about Epstein and being like maybe possibly Mossad?
Well, and that's the thing. That's what, because when we look at a RICO case, right? Because it's all racketeering and everything, so it's all based off conspiracies. Well, if you notice, like, Diddy pretty much got off, and everybody else is getting off. It's like, but what if they're building the largest RICO case in history? Because if they were starting this back in 2017, 2018, all this Epstein, because if Sessions started it and he passed it off to Huber, and Huber is based outside of DC, remember, he's out of Utah. So now you see John Solomon and all them coming up saying, oh, well, then they could have a special prosecutor, somewhere, outside of DC, like Florida. It's like, well, that's cute. What about the other one? Because if you want it, you have to nail every single one of them down. So when they say, hey, the FBI, DOJ, they don't have anything on Epstein, because they already gave it to Huber. You can't just go ask Huber for it. So everybody's all, oh, see, there's no guys. There's a bigger list than anybody can realize. But it's just like anything else. If you get a couple of them, the rest of it, it's just like, turn on lights and a bunch of cockroaches scatter.
But Jason, did you hear the John Solomon interview like 2 days ago talking about the grand conspiracy this is like 15 years. They're connecting it from 15 years back to today, and it's one big, massive grand conspiracy prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
so vast and so big, the average person can't even wrap their head around it.
This is just because this goes back to the banking cartel. This goes back to the pharmaceutical because they're all tied in. If everything's connected, then you have to have the banking, pharmaceutical. They're all tied in order to destroy humanity. So that would be a conspiracy in itself. You got the vaccines, you got, I mean, everything. You got the child trafficking, then you have the invasion here, then you have what, 350,000 kids come up missing, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, where are the kids?" Like, oh, we need to back this up. Back in the 90s, when Clinton was in, on average, on the FBI website, there were over 900,000 missing children in America. Over 900,000. And yet nobody batted an eyelash. And then it declined some. It declined to like 600,000, 500,000. One is unacceptable. But remember, when they started putting them on milk cartons and everybody started noticing, then it's like, now they're putting the wolves and foxes to guard the hen house. Because Laura Silsby ended up marrying to be Laura Gollier, and she's the one that was trafficking kids out of Haiti. Now she is at the head of Amber Alert. So why doesn't anybody?
That leads into Terramar too. Terramar is something that nobody's really touched on.
Oh, that goes. Yep. We got some stuff on that because when we dug into that, and I put it on Twitter years ago, one of the 30-day stints we got, and when I started looking at Terramar, and you look at the islands and all this, and they showed pictures of these women filleting fish, and they're all laid out on these leaves outside. I'm like, my mom worked for a fish market. She did the book. So it's like, that's already spoiled. As soon as you fillet, you got to put it on ice. But they had it all just laying out. It's like, guys, that fish was just that's not even real. What they were doing was they were breeding. That's all it was. They were breeding on these islands. They were taking the kids, and because they were
it's very dark. It's very dark.
Very.
Yeah. So we don't. I personally don't want to get into the darkness. I want to stay on the light. We know about the darkness. Listen. Go ahead, Jace. Go ahead.
I do have one more question for Andy. You showed those towers, right? How tall were they? I'm wondering if they're 98 feet and then 88 feet above ground. Just like the two flagpoles that Trump put in, because they have a big copper top on them. And where he put them is that in the back, it is in the, like if you look at the White House, in the back, it connects, like it's on the left-hand side, and then this flag's on the right-hand side. It's like, well, why would he do it like that? It's like, because it connects Pennsylvania Avenue. You put up two flagpoles. If you said, they're just under 100 feet, then you find out they're 88 feet. But the thing is that the guys doing it, they had the crane, but it's like, so where's the caisson for it? So you can mount it above ground. Was no caisson, so it was underground. So was it 10 feet underground? So instead of 88 feet, it is 98 feet, which is another 17. So you have two 17s there, plus two speeds, plus Pennsylvania Avenue is a 16 plus 1, Pennsylvania Avenue 16 plus 1 to there. It's literally breaking the whole, how can you say it? The witchcraft that they have on DC. Just like the Washington Monument. That's got to come down. That's a massive stress crack a third of the way up.
Yeah, it's nothing more than a big penis is all it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So listen, Jason, we always love you, man. You bring it hard, and I want to thank everyone that came on tonight, especially Rob. Thank you so much, and we're hopeful that you come back and visit with us again. And then Anna, my dear friend Anna in Brazil, she's doing a wonderful, wonderful job down here in Brazil. She's a great leader, and I'm very proud of her. And hopefully we'll have Anna on more and more too, because we want to bridge, you guys. We want to bridge to South America, Brazil, Chile's land. We want to unite. You know, where we go one, we go all. It's just not about America. This is about the whole entire world. And when this abundance, and Rob just dropped the bomb tonight with the August 1st, you know, I stress this a lot, and I challenge everyone that's in the RV, that's in the XRP and the digital assets. Just know that this is God's money. This isn't our money. We're just stewards of it. And that we have to do good with this money, and we have to use it as a resource to help rebuild our worlds. And let's not be selfish about it. Let's be stewards of God and do God's work. So with that, I just want to say good night, and I'm thankful for our first live broadcast here. I don't want to, and I'm hopeful we'll do more of these. And Rob, I hope you come back. You know, you let us know what your schedule is. We usually do this on Wednesday nights. We'd love to have you. You're a great addition to any podcast. You bring a tremendous amount of assets with you. So we appreciate you, and you're a great patriot, and so are you, Anna. Thank you so much.
Honored, grateful. Thank you. Look forward to doing this again sometime.
Great. God bless everyone.
Nice to meet you, Anna. Jason, good to see you. Dylan, Chili Man, nice to see you.
Thank you, Ann.
The kid,
Thank you, Rob.
Mike, thank you.
Thanks.